Hi there. Today I'm going to be talking about my lived experience of recovering from cancer and spinal cord injury and how lifestyle medicine affected that journey. My name's Tom Roots. If I go on to the next slide, this is a bit about me. So this is my family. I'm married with two daughters. I have a dog, a cat, and a snake. I live on the east coast of Scotland in East Lothian. I'm a surfer, a mountain biker, paddleboarder, and a very bad runner. My day job is to work for a software company, and I'm turned 50 this year, and I was 48 when I was diagnosed. So, what was my diagnosis and situation? Well, in 2022, I started the year. I had COVID at Easter time, and around that time, I started getting quite itchy and rashy. Didn't really think much of it. Wasn't sure what it was. In fact, I was having a pretty active year. I climbed Ben Nevis with my sister in August, something neither of us had ever done before. And then around early September, I also went mountain biking on Ben Nevis. And after that, I started getting some extreme lower back pain. I was getting really sore. But at the time, I really put that down to the fact that I was a surfer and I played front row rugby in my youth. So, that's notorious for damaging your back. So I didn't think too much of it. I just thought age was catching up with me. I then went on and did a SUP mountain bike trail run triathlon in the Lake District, and did okay at that. Couldn't understand why I wasn't quite as quick on the SUP as I thought I should be, but there we go. I then started getting night sweats, which quite concerning, but I didn't worry about too much at the time. But I was really drenching the bed at night with night sweats. I then went away on business, and I was quite poorly going away, but I went away. Actually, went away twice that year. I went up the Sears Tower, and I took this photo, and I look pretty ill in this photo. I'm not sure whether that's my illness or the fact I'm terrified of heights, but nevertheless, I was certainly getting very tired. And towards the end of the year, I started seeing doctors, and they weren't sure what was wrong with me. And I started getting quite bad cramps in the bones of my arms, which was an oddity. And they thought I might have, initially, my blood tests were showing strange things with my bloods. They thought I might have hepatitis, um, and they weren't really sure what was going on. But if we move forward to 2023 in January, I found myself having an ultrasound, and that I wasn't told anything at the time, but I had a phone call, and the next day I found myself on a CT scanner in Edinburgh. And that evening, or after my scan, after a bit of a wait, I was told that I had a broken back and I had advanced lymphoma, and it had spread below my diaphragm, was in my kidney, and was actually the cause of my broken back because it had got into my bones. And that was a lot to take in. It was a junior doctor who told me that. And they couldn't get hold of anyone from the hematology department to come and talk to me. So I was I went on my way outside, and luckily my sister's a doctor, so I rang her up and I gave her the news. And whenever I tell my doctor I've got something wrong with me, she always tells me I'm probably going to die. And this time she didn't, so that was a concern. Quite funny in hindsight thinking back, but at the time it was pretty serious. But she taught me through that it was good prognosis. And I was then into the diagnosis phase, biopsies and things like that. Unfortunately, during that phase, I started to struggle to walk, and over the weekend I lost the ability to walk. And I'm going to read. I had started keeping a cancer diary at that point, and I'm going to read. An extract from my cancer diary now from that day, and it says, first, fast tracked to the Western and the MRI. The cancer is causing a spinal cord compression, which is pretty serious. Long, hard, and mentally challenging day. The first thing I heard on the ward was someone being told that they had no more options for treatment. I was also told I also was next to someone in a bad way, clearly in a lot of pain. A very tough day seeing the stark reality of the ward, my own new reality. This is a life and death fight here, time to take it on and front up. So I think that summarizes quite well the situation I found myself in. And here I was on Ward 15 of the Western the Western in Edinburgh, in a serious situation, not being able to walk, and with a pretty scary cancer diagnosis, which wasn't fully diagnosed at that point. And throughout the week, I had treatment for my back, and I finally had a diagnosis meeting, and found out that I had stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, or advanced stage Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, next, I'm just going to show the treatment requirements and why, while you walk or read them, won't read that out. But I just reflect on some things the doctors told me through that period, and how it affects the mindset, and how it can affect the mindset. And one thing I was told before my full diagnosis was it was in my bones, which is complicated but not impossible to sort. And that was a difficult thing to hear, because not impossible is quite close to impossible. And so that was a scary use of words. And also my GP a bit earlier on and said, you've got a long road ahead, which was true. I did have a very long road ahead, still on it. But it was those kind of words that really have an impact on a patient. Nevertheless, the same doctor, the impossible, she also said during my diagnosis that I was curable, and they treated me as curable. And I really, that was, I trusted that, and I believed that, and that was great. So anyway, so here's my treatment requirements. 16 rounds of the most powerful chemo they could give me, and that was partly because I was so fit. So the fitness had already played a key role in my ability to recover from cancer, because they could hit me hard and fast. But I had challenges. I still had to get through all that, and I had to learn to walk again. At that point, I was on a Zimmer frame, being able to walk the length of the corridor and back with a Zimmer frame. Couldn't walk unaided at all. So, lifestyle medicine and the 6 pillars, and how does that come into it? Well, I'd never heard of this before. In fact, I heard about it during my recovery, but it's interesting that my attitude really aligns to this, and hence why I've been asked to do this presentation. So if I go into the 6 pillars, I'll go through them in order, and how they affected me, and how I view these. There's a lot of detail here, but I think it's critical. Firstly, my mental well-being. I'm very lucky in that I'm a very laid-back individual by nature. I don't get stressed particularly easily, and I have a laid-back approach to life. Nevertheless, it was a difficult situation, but I did decide early on to lead with a positive mindset and lead from the front. And I figured if I was as positive as I could be, then I could drag everyone else along. They wouldn't need to worry about me. They could worry about everything else. And then when I ran out of steam, they could pick me up and carry me along. And that happened a few times, and that's the way it worked out. I also didn't plan too far ahead. I decided when I was in hospital that I would work in 3-hour gaps, or maybe morning and afternoon, if you like. And I figured there's not that much can happen to me in the next 3 hours. I might have an injection, a bit of radiotherapy, go to chemo, have lunch, watch a bit of rugby. It couldn't be that bad, and I didn't overthink the overall. I just kept close, just the short term, and that may have been the project manager in me doing that, but it certainly worked. I also chose to trust people. Now, in this day and age, people like to not trust the NHS or people in authority. That's not my style. That's not me. I chose to trust the doctors were telling me, and I trust to follow their process and take their advice, including my sister, who of course I would trust. And that worked well for me. I set targets for my recovery. I told myself I was going to learn to wing foil, which, for those who don't know, wing foil is a kind of derivative of windsurfing, if you like, which is about as hard as it gets for someone who's damaged their spinal cord and can't walk. I kept a cancer diary. I recorded how I felt, something positive about the day, something I was going to do the next day, my health situation, and also something amazing I'd done in my life. And that was every day. And that was a record for my children, in case I didn't make it, that they could see that I was not just a boring dad, but I'd had a really fantastic lifestyle, or a life up to that point. And I also asked for help when I needed it, and got help. So I wasn't scared. I probably was a bit, but I wasn't scared of asking for help. Now, sleep's a lot easier. My back was broken, so I was already not really able to sleep in my bed. Kirsty and I were in separate rooms. I was in a reclining chair, and the real benefit here was for Kirsty. she was my primary carer and looking after the family. So here it was important she got a full night's sleep, which she did. I was in a separate room and I could manage my medication, my temperature gauging, my water intake, and do all the stuff I need to do through the night and control that. And also, I sleep extremely well. I'll sleep through anything. However, steroids do disrupt that a bit. So I got into the habit of watching extremely boring long-term sports programs where you could snooze through them and kind of wouldn't matter if you lost it. Healthy eating. Now, this is maybe a bit of an anomaly in this situation. That my doctors advised me that the cancer I had was very aggressive and I just really needed to eat high-fat foods and take on calories. So whilst we had the books of how to starve and how to feed cancer, I just took calories in this instant. Physical activity. You probably get the gist that this is part of my life, part of who I am, and I just had to take this head on. 1 million painful steps. As soon as I was out of hospital, I was walking, and I walked and walked and walked and continued to do so. I was my own physio. I wanted to get back to surf. I wanted to do all those things. I went to the physio and they advised me that I was already doing more than they could suggest and perhaps I should become a physio. So I did all my own physio. I set my own targets. I didn't hit them all, but I set them and went after them. I said I want to surf by here, I want to ride my bike by here, and I did all those things. And I just didn't give up. I decided to tough it out and not give up, and that's what I did. And this one is, I mean, mental well-being is absolutely important, but social relationships was the one that probably surprised me the most. The support of people. My wife, who was relentless. Hematology ward 7. The doctors, the nurses, specialist nurses, and cancer ward for 15, of course. They're absolutely amazing people. Good friends who supported me, who went into bat for me and came and visited me, my family, and support groups, namely Maggie's Cancer Charity, who are amazing, and the village as a whole that I live in, and also, last but not least, my dog, who sat by my side every day, every night, waiting. He took over control of the house and protecting it, and he, of course, walked 1 million painful steps with me, although I think he enjoyed every single one of them. And finally, harmful substances. Now this one's really easy for me because if I get a slide to run, I don't really drink. I didn't really drink very much. Never smoked, and I drank coffee before I was ill, but don't now. But I've never really done those things. I get my kicks from going fast, scaring myself, being in the water, and those things don't lend themselves to that, so I don't bother. They'll slow me down. So I just that was not for me. So that was kind of my alignment to the pillars of lifestyle medicine, and now I'll kind of talk to you about my recovery and how that played out, and how that went for me. So we're into Feb of 2023, and I had to start my radiation. I was in hospital. Set the scene again. I was in hospital, broken back, damaged spinal cord broken lower back, damaged spinal cord at my diaphragm level, and of course stage 4 Hodgkin's. So I had radiotherapy, and then I was let out after I could prove I could walk down some stairs holding the banisters and a crutch. I then just started walking. By this time I'd got myself down to 2 crutches, and even on my first walk I was trying to walk with 1, which wasn't the best idea, but there we go. I started doing all I could balance on old boards in the garden. I then started my chemo. This chemo day 1, this here is probably one of the best days of my life. Probably maybe counterintuitive, but this was the day I was taking the fight to cancer, and this is where I started to beat it rather than the other way around, or certainly try anyway. So this was a major day for me. Scary. Chemo is scary, and probably rightly so. But it was a major turning point for and chemo went very well for me. I did every one. I scraped through and stayed fit enough to take every one. I just kept walking every day, a little bit further each day. My friends came to visit me late on in my chemo routine, from a long distance away. Two old friends brought their crazy cars, and we one from Australia, one from London. And we went out and enjoyed ourselves. I was just about able to drive using my legs at that point, which was great. My hair fell out. Got a great video of, well, a video anyway, of me pulling my hair out, which was once in a lifetime experience, I guess. And of course, you know, the weight issue, I had to keep weight on. I dropped from 75 kilos ish to 66. And you can see by this photo, I was beginning to look really quite poorly. You know, that's the effect chemo has on the body. It gets to you eventually. But of course, by June, I got the all clear. So 4 rounds, 16 goes of chemo, and I was able to drive down to my mum's house in the Borders and give her the good news that I was all clear, and she took a photo of me that day, which is this one, the day before her birthday, in fact, which is fantastic news. And then, you know, it's easy to say that was the hard work done, but it wasn't. That was the start, actually. Up until that point, I'd been following and trusting a process, and now I was kind of on my own. And, you know, I'd recovered from cancer, but I had a spinal cord injury that I'm still recovering from today to deal with. So it was on that balance board, back into the physio. You know, my first time back on a paddleboard in mid-June. This looks like an amazing day. This is probably the worst day of my life. You know, riding these boards and catching waves on surfboards and paddleboards was my magic ability, you know, and I hadn't realized I had it, but when I lost it, I realized I had, and not being able to do it, you know, I could stand on a board, but I was falling off. It was very, very difficult that day, and it was difficult to move on and work through getting back to where I wanted to be. And then I had my first bike ride around the same time as well, and again, very, very difficult. Couldn't stand up on the bike, but I could sit and ride, which was good. My friend came up again, and we had some more fun in cars, and just had a weekend away to chill out. I got up into the Highlands, rode my bike up some hills for the first time. Another brilliant, you know, social aspect is that my village raised a load of money for the football club in Gullen, and they asked who I wanted to donate the money to, and Maggie's charity was an absolute no-brainer, so I was able to go and present that check on behalf of the village. Then after that, you know, around the same time, riding Glen Tress, Kirsty and I, you know, returned to somewhere we love to ride our bikes, Peebles and the Tweed Valley, and I went up that first climb, probably the slowest I've ever done it, but I got to the top, started catching waves again, badly, but I started catching, kept working on my balance, got my foil board out with my wing out with a longboard, started to learn that, and I couldn't afford to fall off because I'd just fall over, but I was able to get up and get the thing moving. Some friends came to visit, old school friends that I, you know, went to school with a very long time ago, and we had a Not Dead Yet party, which was just brilliant. You know, they came from all over the country to see me, and you know, by Christmas, you know, things were on the up, but there were still huge challenges. You know, I was still getting a lot of symptoms, and I was having phone calls, putting my mind at rest about, you know, symptoms I was having. My body was still, you know, recovering from the scars of the internal scars, so I was getting a lot of internal aches and pains and lymph systems. So I was really being challenged quite badly by, you know, just the mental aspect of worrying about cancer coming back. And to that end, you know, in early, you know, right in the new year, I walked into Maggie's charity and the Maggie Centre in Edinburgh and asked for help, you know, and they were brilliant. And I joined some support groups for lymphoma, which was great because I met like-minded people. And I realised, you know, there were people in worse positions than me and plenty of people in the same position as me. And I also went to see a psychologist 4 times, and that was, you know, I didn't think I was that guy, you know, Mr. Laid Back, but actually it was just what I needed, and you know, it really did me the world of good. And I actually came out seeing how lucky I was. One time in my life, I really needed some good luck. My body responded to that treatment, and I got it, and I could manage the rest. My friends came, did some more driving. You can see here I'm a car guy. I got that wing out on the water. Started to get that wing out on the water. Surfing was so frustrating, but I was catching waves, and that was the main thing. There was a hell of a lot of swearing in the water. I got my bike in the air and was able to start to trust my legs to land without, crashing to a halt. I was able to start running more than 100 meters, and this video, it really demonstrates the timeline. That's 6 months, that's 12 months, that's 18 months. So you can really get a picture to, to how that went. But there was still a lot of fear involved. I was back on the MRI or CT with fear of my cancer being back, and I got the all clear. And after that, I really pushed on. I think from that day, late last year, I parked cancer finally, just about, and then started really find my mojo on my boards again. Started surfing prone boards as well now, and also, as promised, I got that wing up on foil, up on the foil board, which was, I'm still a beginner, but I got my target. So to finish up, probably to summary, I went to the Cancer Survivors Garden in Chicago late last year, found it by accident, and I found a couple of plaques. And I think this sums up cancer recovery, which don't want to load. Here they come. And the first one really sums, the summary is do everything in your power to fight this disease. And the second one is have a positive mental attitude. And I couldn't agree with those two items. That's the key to it. Maybe the other two things is, believe in yourself. And also sometimes you just got to hang in there and hang tough. And that's what I did when the going was tough. So that's me. Thank you very much. I think we're now hopefully I'll be available for some Q&A.